All right, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the channel. Give a minute for the chat to load as we get ready to talk about this illegal alien situation in the country. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you're new to the channel. Got some videos to show you tonight. I've got some statistics to go through, but I also I just want to hit the main point as Christians of how we should respond and how we should navigate the border crisis issue and just illegals in general. Should America even have borders? I think that's something worth pursuing and looking into. What do you think? Let me know in the chat. Do you think it is unloving to have borders? Yes or no? Yes, it's unloving to have borders. No, it's not unloving. I support borders. If you say no, it's not unloving, you're saying, I think we should have borders. Okay, many people say no. Not particularly surprised by that. Need borders. Here's just a fun fact before we get into this. According to a study that I did on the internet, there are only five countries that do not have a border. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 195 countries in the world, and 190 of them have a border. 190 out of 195 have a border. The only ones that don't have a border are the Schengen area, which is an agreement in place. So even that's a legal agreement. And that is allowing travel across 29 different European countries. Then there's the Nordic passport. This allows citizens of Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden to travel and reside in each other's countries without passports or residence permits. Then there's the Trans-Tasman Travel Agreement. This is between Australia and New Zealand. It permits citizens to travel, reside, and work in either country, but you have to be a citizen of one or the other. Then you have the Central America Border Control Agreement, which is El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. They have abolished border controls for land travel between their countries. And then you've got the India-Nepal open border. That happened under the Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace in 1950. But even here, citizens of India and Nepal can move freely across each other's border. And these are agreements that are in place. It is not just some open border situation. Well, I said 5 countries. I should add 6. Now it's back to 5. But under the Biden administration, it was 6 because the U.S. fell under that. And we had people pouring in, people like this guy.
Wait, if you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entire
Soon you're going to know who I am. Soon you'll know. That's what he says. Do you think that is a good guy? Do you think that's the kind of guy we should have in this country? Let me know, yes or no. You want that guy coming to your neighborhood? When he's met at the border and they say, "Who are you?" And he says, "Soon you'll know. You'll know who I am." 190 countries have a border. You know, the first thing that God did when he kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden, which was gated, by the way, is he put an angel with a flaming sword in front of it, times 2. Heaven has gates. Hell has open borders. Everybody's heading to hell. It is only through the blood of Jesus that we can be accepted into heaven, but you're not just going to waltz right in. Your house has a lock on the outside. not because you hate who is outside, but because you love who is inside. This should be easy to understand, but sometimes when it's on a macro level, it's like we lose our minds and we don't know how to navigate this. So I'm going to help us navigate it. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Shane Winnings. I aim to give a biblical view of a world that is not so biblical. Let's get into it. The Bible says a city without walls is like a man with no self-control. Like a city without walls is a man with no self-control. What does this mean? The Bible literally equates having no self-control as being reckless, worthless, vulnerable, like a city that doesn't have any walls. I want you to think about this. The Bible makes this comparison. This is a proverb. A man with no self-control is like a city without walls. Does that sound like a good thing? Would you want to be described like that? No, not at all. A man with no self-control, he's no good to anyone. A man with no self-control is reckless. A man with no self-control is vulnerable to attack. So is a city without walls. Walls don't hate the people outside. They love the people inside. But let's talk about the border from a legal perspective. By the way, if you're just joining, we've got hundreds of people hopping on now. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if this is your first time to the channel. And then give that thumbs up button a quick smash. Give it a like really quick. Help us reach more people on this Monday night. Here's the deal. I want you to understand this. Thank you. Someone posted the verse. It is Proverbs 25:28. I want you to understand this. Now, I believe there is a greater thing at work, and we'll talk about the sinister stuff within the Biden administration. You know, maybe we'll get into that if I remember. But first, we're going to help you as a Christian. You guys know, if you've seen my content, my goal is to help you as a Christian. I'm not here to purely sensationalize something. I'm not here to just entertain. Like, I'm not an entertainer. I'm a preacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a leader. I lead an organization. Like, I don't just want to, I don't want to entertain people. I hope that the content, I hope you're entertained because you learn. Some of my favorite classes in college were from professors that were boring to listen to, but the content was very interesting. I had an aviation teacher who was like, it was like, I don't even know what to describe it as. It was horrific, like listening to this guy, but the things he was saying, you know, it's like he had no personality when he was teaching, but what he taught was so interesting that I would say I loved that class, even though I didn't enjoy his delivery. And the reason I'm saying that is I believe if I equip you in the things of God, you'll be entertained in a sense. You know, I'm not here to entertain. And so the reason I say that is I want you to leave this live understanding from a biblical perspective how to approach the illegal situation, because many people, let me just ask, let's do a live survey right here. On a scale of 1 to 10, and not just because you're patriotic and you can, you know, recite some, you know, buzzwords or phrases you heard online. But, and I appreciate your guys' comments. Thanks for telling me I'm not boring. I wasn't like trying to self-deprecate. I was just saying my goal is not to entertain. But I appreciate y'all. On a scale of 1 to 10, okay, how confident are you? 10 being I'm super confident, 1 being I'm not that confident at all. How confident are you if you were to get into a debate with someone on why open borders is unbiblical, right? If someone came at you and said, you're not being loving, you should be letting the immigrant in. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident would you be in making a biblical argument? Just be honest. Some people aren't that confident. Some of you guys are like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to actually back up how I feel. Okay, look, we got a range. We got 1, 10, 4, 8. 5 is fair. We got some 3s. Look at this. This is what I want to see. I want to help you. I think it's very easy. So I will start with this because people will say, well, you know, everyone's an immigrant. Okay, true. However, when the settlers first came over, there was no border. Okay, America was vastly an unexplored territory. Now, there were some natives here, but they didn't cover the entire United States. And I will say that there are parts of America where some of the things that were done to the Native Americans was horrible, and that is an ugly part of the American history. Driving natives off of their land and throwing them onto a reservation. Like, they weren't treated well at large. Not everyone was like that. Again, I talked last night about a guy named John Rolfe, huge Christian guy, helped colonize Virginia, was the husband of Pocahontas. He was a massive evangelist. He was a spirit-filled Christian, and he integrated with the natives. They taught each other things. The natives taught him how to plant food. Like, that is how it should be done. But I say this to say, when he moved in, there was no one on that land. So they set up, in Jamestown. They weren't driving natives out. Now, again, that did happen in the country, but the argument is like, well, we came in and we just kind of took over. No, it wasn't like someone ran the whole country and they had borders set up and we violated those borders, we being our ancestors. It was free reign back then. It was just like, and that's kind of how it was like, hey, I mean, you've got these military leaders rolling through and just taking over different territories. You look at Napoleon and everything that he conquered, it's insane. And that's just how the world was back then. But now we're talking about 200 and almost 50 years later, we have established law and order. America was founded to be a country that gave people the opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, right? This is the country where you're supposed to be able to do that. And so what they did was they created this country, and a lot of it, after the whole thing happened with the natives, which again is tragic. It's a tragic part of our country's history. There's no brushing past that. They established the states, they established the borders, and that's how it's been. And so we have to understand that we're not growing up in the times of our country being established. We're 240 years later, and we have borders. We have a constitution. We have written laws, okay? And just like 189 other countries in the world, we have borders, we have laws, and there is a right way to come into this country. So here's the bottom line. If someone crosses illegally, they are committing a crime. Can we all agree on that? Like, if someone crosses the border illegally, they are committing a crime. And here's something that will help you in so many instances in your life. If you're like, man, I don't know how to navigate this. God will never promote lawlessness. God will never promote lawlessness, ever. God will never contradict himself, ever. So God won't call you to do something that violates something else that he has already said, okay? So if you're like, man, how do I know this is God? Or is it not God? Well, if it causes you to violate, it's just like I talked about this in spiritual abuse or manipulation. If someone says, I'm hearing the Lord and he's saying you need to do this, and it goes against your conscience or it goes against what God's already told you, you can know that that's not from the Lord. God is not going to violate his own word. God is not going to violate his own character. Okay? Now, the thing about America is that we're not totally closed off either. Like, there is a right way to get into the country. Is it as efficient and as fast as we would like it to be? No. But you know what? The process is the process. At some point, you just don't have the resources or the capability to do what needs to be done. And what happens when you try to cut corners is that people bear the consequences of that. So one of the corners that's being cut is the vetting process. And we'll read about this in an article. But these Border Patrol agents are talking about the Biden administration putting restrictions on them as far as, you will not spend longer than 72 hours to vet someone. Well, a proper vetting can take much longer than that. To do a real background check, to really look into stuff. I mean, dude, for me to get a top secret clearance, it took weeks and weeks and weeks. It might have taken months, actually. It might have taken 6 months. For me to get cleared through the police department took over a month. And so we're expecting that, these Border Patrol agents are just going to do a quick vet like that. It doesn't happen like that. And the reason I'm saying this is that we have a process. It's not like our country is turned off to anyone coming in, which I wouldn't have a problem with that if there was a justifiable reason. But as a whole, we do allow immigrants to come in. There is just a proper way to do it. And when we promote lawlessness, we will inherit and reap the consequences of lawlessness. And let me just say this too, because I've seen this said online, and I'm going to call out my own side. I'm going to call out some conservatives who it's not just about the murderers and the ones committing sexual assault and, X, Y, and Z. It's not just them. If you come illegally, you're illegal. You're breaking the law. I don't care if you're a good illegal or a horrific illegal. You're illegal and you should leave. Like across the board, we have to be people of law and order. You can't say that you have integrity and then you're breaking the rules for some and not for other. Okay? So here's I would say number one or step one. If you're a Christian, you can understand that God will not violate himself. And so it can't be God telling us to let all of these illegals in if we are allowing them to break the law. That is promoting lawlessness. It also sends a message that we will not hold you accountable for breaking the law. Either we're a country of law and order or we are not. Also, you can't say, I love illegals, let them flood in because I love my neighbor. This is the argument you're seeing from the left a lot is, love your neighbor. Okay, well, what about the American people? This little video I've got playing right here, this is in Colorado. Look at these guys. This guy has a rifle with a long-range scope mounted to it. There's another video where they're hacking the door down with like an axe or something. These guys, they've all got pistols. This is happening in America. This is Tren de Aragua. There's over 100 cases nationwide that are linked to this gang. And I mean across the nation. They have infiltrated the nation. But praise God, I just saw an update, I think today, where they conducted a huge raid at like a nightclub or something. They arrested like over 50 of these guys. And there's more that they're tracking. Thanks to the Trump administration, the police don't have their hands tied behind their back. ICE doesn't have their hands tied behind their back. They've already started deporting people. They've already started making these arrests. Let me ask you a question. Do you want those guys in your house? Do you want those guys in your apartment complex? Now let me say this, right up front. I'm not saying that everyone coming over is like that. But there are those coming over like that. And when you don't vet, you're going to get the good with the bad. So you have to vet. And you know how you vet people? They apply for citizenship, and it takes time because you have to go through them. You'll hear in a minute, J.D. Vance, let me see if I can just pull this up. Let's watch this. You'll hear a little bit about the vetting, I believe. I think this is the video.
In August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline Afghan refugees.
But my primary
Do you stand by
concern
it?
as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that
So
we
no.
know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These people are vetted.
Again, she's going to keep interrupting and saying, oh, these people are vetted. No, they're not. He literally just gave an example of how, hold on. There's always someone in here who likes to just run their mouth, which is fine, but we don't have to sit here and listen to it. So, hide user from channel. All right, see you later. There's always one or two. So, Vice President Vance is talking about, look at the guy from Oklahoma. They said he was vetted. Well, vetted according to what? It's not lying if I look into the guy's background for 10 minutes. I could say, well, I did start the vetting process. Oh, okay, you vetted him. Good, he's in. No, I haven't done a thorough investigation. I don't know everything about this guy. Well, the Biden administration was forcing these people through. And so what happens is you have these people that are vetted and they're let in illegally, by the way. Like, I want you to think about the backwards universe that we were living in for the last 4 years. And I'm not here to just dog on a person, but when that person is permitted, the Bible says when the wicked rule, the people groan. And people have been groaning for the last 4 years. There are human beings that are no longer with us because of these insane policies, these anti-biblical policies that don't protect people. You're hearing love your neighbor and people are throwing around Bible verses and stuff, and they're using them out of context. They're twisting them. They're perverting them. Do you know how many children are missing? 300,000 children, which I just heard an update that they may have tracked down the first 20% of those kids, or that process has been started where they believe they've located, tens of thousands of these kids. It's a start. So you've got 300,000 missing kids at the border. You have Americans, sweet, innocent Americans, murdered in cold blood by repeat offenders who were on the, terror watch list, who were on Interpol, who were wanted, who were let back into the country, had been deported under Trump's administration and other administrations previously, let back in under Biden, and now killing people. You've got Trende Aragua running around in the country, taking over apartment complexes, taking over cities. Like, this stuff is actually happening. And so you have this reporter who has the gall to sit across from JD Vance, who's a guy I wouldn't want to mess with. He comes with receipts and he's very articulate. Like, he's not a guy you're going to bully into anything. And she keeps saying they were vetted. They were vetted. And I love what he says. He says, my duty is to the American people. Can I ask you guys a question, and just let me know in the chat? Are you thankful for an administration that puts the American people first?
Good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly, he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
Dude, I love that. I love what he just said. He just said, I'm not going to put my kids in that situation, so I'm not going to put the American people in that situation. That is how you govern. When you govern from a place of I say this all the time, and I even talked about this. I have a lock on my door. It's not hard for me to think about things on a macro level when I understand them in the terms of my own life. And so you've got Vice President Vance who says, dude, I don't want my kids growing up in a neighborhood where these guys are running around. And so if I don't want it, I'm not going to be a hypocrite like a lot of the left was and say, oh yeah, we want the illegals. We want the illegals. So then you've got Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis shipping the illegals up to Martha's Vineyard and outside of Kamala's house and outside of, Clinton's house. And then all this, and outside of Eric Adams' house, the mayor of New York, or the governor of New York, or whatever. And maybe it was the mayor. Dude, I don't even remember anymore. He was so bad that I just forgot about him. Anyways, they're shipping these people out in front of their houses, and all of a sudden they're going, hey, what's happening? We can't have all these people here. Well, I thought you wanted them in the country. And so they're like, well, I want them. I just don't want them right here. Do you know the hypocrisy in that? The people pushing this don't even believe in it. That should be the dead giveaway, first and foremost, that this is a bunch of crap. Now, let me show you this, just in the same vein as that. I love videos like this. Watch this. Just look at the double standard, the hypocrisy.
Eric Adams recently came up with an idea to house migrants in private citizens' homes.
Sounds good to me.
Could you ever see yourself housing a migrant?
Not right now, not at this point, no.
If they want to put somebody up, then why shouldn't they?
Would you be willing to sign this today and invite a migrant into your home?
No.
I think that's like a really good idea.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Could you ever see yourself housing a migrant in your home?
I mean, totally.
Yeah, why not?
If you sign this, we can get a migrant into your home, and as early as next week. Would you want to sign this today?
No, because I live with my parents.
Do you think you could ask your parents?
I don't know.
This would be like for your actual home for you to take in a migrant yourself.
I literally live in a 2-bedroom with...
Trying to get him to take me in.
Oh, yeah. We're totally for it. We're totally for it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay. Will you take one? Well, I would, but where do you... These people are like, yeah, I agree to this. Just dump them somewhere else. Yeah, they really care. They really care. They're really loving their neighbor, right?
So they'll contact you, they'll set you up with a migrant, and they'll have them on your house in as early as 1 week. Thanks so much.
The only dude who said yes was drunk out of his gourd. Gosh. So I go back to my main point. They want to say it's in the realm of loving your neighbor. Well, you can't love your neighbor at the cost of another neighbor. This is how you know that it's not godly. Imagine if I rejected my own family's wishes and desires and comfort for someone else, right? I am a husband. I am a father. My first priority is to my family. The Bible says that a man who doesn't take care of his family is worse than an unbeliever. A Christian who doesn't take care of his family, worse than an unbeliever. Okay? I don't even know what that means. I know what it sounds like, and it sounds pretty bad. It sounds like I have an obligation to provide and protect and care for my family. So imagine if I neglect my own family's protection and care and desires because I want to let 50 homeless people into my house without vetting them, right? I got to love my neighbor. I buy into this thing. I go gather up 50 homeless people and I bring them into my house. Can I just tell you, most of them are probably addicted. I was a cop for 5 years. Most of the homeless people that I met were addicted, and it was very sad. A lot of them were very nice people, but they were addicted. And when you're addicted, you have to keep up with your addiction. And so they would commit petty crimes or small crimes. Some of them got into bigger crimes to keep fueling their craving. And it was sad. And I saw that cycle in many of them. But the case that I'm making is that if you're going to bring in a bunch of people and you have not checked into their background, then you have no idea what you're opening yourself up to. You might bring people into your home and then you never wake up in the morning because you're dead. You don't know. That's why you check. That's why you don't just let people in. And by the way, we're going to get into some verses that talk about borders and walls and things like this. It's in the Bible. But I'm just saying, God is not going to call you to do something at the cost of someone else. And so when we let illegal immigrants pour in here, forget about the effect on the economy, which it is real. Forget about all of that stuff. The people that have been sexually assaulted, murdered, tortured, the apartment complex that was taken over, the various crimes throughout the city that we're looking at, or throughout the nation that we're looking at, these people are coming in. It's undeniable. Like, that is actually happening. You see the video on my screen. That is real. That is not AI. That is not some conspiracy. They are all around the country. And so you you are letting these people in, and they are hurting Americans. And so you can't love your neighbor if it's hurting the American people who are actually your own nation. You know what I mean? Like, as a Christian, that's just how you should look at it. Let's look at this, though. I think some of these statistics are things we should be looking at as well. Now, this is on the Border Patrol's website. I want you to just look. Let's look at assault. Under the Trump administration, we had 2 rough years. So these are people that were arrested in America who were illegal immigrants. And it's categorized by crime. So like in 2017, there were 692 illegal immigrants that were arrested for some type of assault or domestic violence. Then it goes down to 524, then 299, then 208. As you know, more of the wall was being built. Trump was cracking down on the border wall. And if you actually remember when he got shot in the ear, he was pulling up a chart. You guys remember this? They said it was his favorite chart. And what he was going to show, and the thing that saved his life, obviously it was the Lord, but like the Lord had him turn. The thing that saved his life was he was going to show that at the end of his term, we were at the lowest numbers. I mean, across the board. Look, burglary, robbery. This is people breaking into your home. This could also be called home invasion. Robbery. Robbery means someone taking something off of your physical person or using a weapon to commit a theft, right? Putting a gun in your face. It was high when Trump took over, and it went down. Then it got cut in half in 19, and then it was at the lowest in 2020. Let's look at homicide. Homicide has stayed around 3. Look what happens when Biden takes over. It goes from 3 to 60. Look at assault and domestic violence. When Trump finished, it was at 208 in a year. When Biden took over at the end of his first term, after he opened the border, it more than 5x'd. Look at illegal drug possession and trafficking. When Trump started, it was over 1,000. When he finished, it was under 400. The first year after Biden, it was up 6 times. It was over 2,000. Guys, these are just statistics. What? Who do I need to block? All right, someone's trying to get my attention. Southwest Mystic. All right, I got y'all. Sorry, I was getting locked into this thing. Southwest Mystic. See you later. Okay. He's blocked. He's blocked. Are you guys seeing the trend here? Look, the wall works. I want you to see something. Someone should make a clip of this later. This is what loving your neighbor looks like. If I'm the president and I come in and I go, wait a minute, there's 692 domestic violence or assaults committed by illegal aliens in a year. All right, I do not want 700 Americans being hit or assaulted, and that's of any degree. Okay, that could be assault in the first degree that didn't amount to homicide or manslaughter. This is not just like a bar fight. This assault could be you got hit in the head with a hammer. You got stabbed, right? And you didn't die. So it doesn't rise to the level of homicide. You got shot. That can rise to assault. A woman got strangled. A woman got, RAPED. Well, that's going to fall down here under sexual offenses. But I just want, if I'm the president and they go, Mr. President, this year we had 700 people, Americans, that were assaulted. I'm saying, you know what? We're locking that border down. We're going to vet people harder. We're going to make sure Americans are safe. And I finish my term and we have cut that number down by more than 2/3. I'm going, hey guys, look how much I loved my neighbor. Look at how good America is doing. And then you have a president come in saying, love your neighbor, open the borders. And now we are putting Americans at risk. That is loving your neighbor. And it can be statistically proven that walls work and that borders work. Let's look at some other crimes. Illegal entry. When Trump took over, 4,500 illegals. and reentry, got it down to 1,200. Soon as Biden took over, it was at 6,000. I also want you to notice a trend. Most of these climb under Biden. They started to go down in 2024 when Trump was running because they knew what was coming. But look at this. Illegal reentries jumped up to 11,000 almost. Just in January, there's already been 1,800. You know, Trump didn't get to take over for the first 3 weeks of January. Thank God he came in and locked that border down. Sexual offenses, 137. That kind of stayed about the same. It got pretty bad in 2020. But then you look at this. Under Biden, first year, border wide open, almost 500. The reason I'm saying, you can see just by looking at this, guys, this is how you love your neighbor. You take care of them. You protect them. You protect people. If someone is always coming into my house and breaking things, I'm going to put a better lock on the door. I'm going to hire guards. You know what I'm saying? This is easy. And at the end of the day, let me just say this too. As a Christian, it doesn't matter if you're coming in here and you've got great intentions or not. It is illegal. God is a God of law and order. God does not bless committing crimes. It doesn't matter how pure your heart was. God does not bless disobedience. It doesn't matter how pure you think your heart was or how pure you think your motives were. You have to follow the law. It's fake love, what these guys are saying. Now, let's look at some scriptures on immigration. These are just any scriptures that mention, I tried to make a list of scriptures that mention foreigner or, they don't really say immigrant. Leviticus 19:33. When a foreigner resides among you, by the way, are you guys appreciating this? Is this helping anything? Let me know in the chat. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Okay, that is regarding how we treat them. We're not going to treat them poorly just because they're someone else. Or they're from somewhere else. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. They were also slaves in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Okay, well, that verse, we're called to not mistreat foreigners. Okay, yeah, we shouldn't beat people that come into our country, but this isn't saying illegally. Again, you have to remember, this is not in the same context. Again, I don't care about some of these verses out of context because God would never permit someone to break a law. And so clearly this verse is not talking about a foreigner coming in an illegal way. Clearly, God would never violate his own word. You look at Romans 13, it says, you don't want to be afraid of the authorities, well then don't break the law. They don't carry a sword for no reason. God would not call you to break the law, ever. It doesn't matter what your motives are. Exodus 22, do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner. That would, if I were to equate that to us today, that would be talking about foreigners that come in legally. Well, once they're here, we don't go, well, hey, we know you're here legally, but you're from, the Middle East, and we don't like your kind over here. No. You don't act like that. You love them as yourself. It doesn't matter. The Bible is getting, in these verses, to the heart of a person. That is, it doesn't matter where you're from. I'm going to treat you the same as everybody else because that is the mark of a Christian. Let's see. Matthew 5. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Again, he's not saying I was a stranger and I broke into your house and you let me sleep there. Like, this is all about the heart. These are verses that people try to use. This is speaking to the heart position. Jesus is saying you were willing to serve. You were willing to give. You weren't storing up things for yourself. You saw that I was hungry. You gave me some food. You saw that I was thirsty. You gave me a drink. Like, you were a considerate person. Hebrews 13. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers or foreigners. Okay, we're going to take care of people. It doesn't matter where you're from, but you can't come in illegally. Now, speaking of Bible verses, let's look at ones about the wall or about borders. Hey, I second that comment. Someone said make sure you like and subscribe. I appreciate that. Yeah, please give the video a thumbs up if you like it. All right, this is in Nehemiah chapter 2. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. It was a disgrace to have a wall that was burned down. Let's look at some more. Nehemiah 4. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places. So they had gaps in their wall. Sound like our southern border? Nehemiah saying, I put people in the gaps, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid. Remember, the Lord who is great and awesome and fights for your families will fight for you, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. The defense of that city was tied to faith in God and protecting families. They literally put armed people in place of where there were gaps in the wall. Well, I wonder if someone would have corrected Nehemiah and said, you know what, it's not very loving. You should just let these people in. Again, we went over Proverbs 25:28. Like a city without walls is a man with no self-control. Not a good comparison. Psalm 122:7. May there be peace within your walls and security within your citadels. 2 Chronicles 14. Let us build up these towns, he said to Judah, and put walls around them with towers, gates, and bars. The land is still ours because we have sought the Lord our God. We sought him, and he has given us rest on every side. So they built the walls, gates, towers, and bars, and prospered. Isaiah 26:1-2. We have a strong city. God makes salvation its walls and ramparts. Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter, the nation that keeps faith. I'm just saying, guys, this is pretty common stuff. Let's watch another video. What other video do we have? Here's another kind of person that we're letting in.
And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti. One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
Wow. Hates Trump, I wonder why. Biden forever. So thankful for everything he did for me and for Obama. I wonder why. When you've got criminals that are saying, man, Biden forever, Obama forever, I love these guys. Like, is that the endorsement that you want? Why didn't they run that in a commercial? This is the new border czar. You remember Kamala was the border czar. She says she was, and everybody knows she was the border czar. That was her name for the first year. She was proud to be it, even though she never went to the border. This is the new border czar. This is a guy who's taking care of business. This is a guy who should make you feel safe.
Homan recently spoke with 60 Minutes.
I hear a lot of people say, the talk of a mass deportation is racist. It's threatening to the immigrant community. It's not threatening to the immigrant community. It should be threatening to the illegal immigrant community.
As ICE director, Homan led the zero tolerance policy that separated parents from their children at the border. The ACLU estimates between 500 and 1,000 families have yet to be reunited. When asked if there's a way to carry out mass deportations without separating families, Homan said this.
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
I mean, what do you think the guy's going to say? Yeah, we don't have to split up illegal immigrant families. We'll deport them all together. Like, what do you think he's going to say? You're trying to appeal to his emotion and say, oh, this is what they do. They do the same thing with abortion. They go, well, what about, they create the most insane, fake situation. They're like, what if a 5-year-old, was sexually assaulted by her dad and uncle, and she had twins, and then they both were addicted to meth, and would you abort that baby? And it's like they're trying to play on your emotion. If I can teach you anything tonight, it's like, don't take the bait of that. Don't take the bait of people trying to get you in emotionalism. You stick to the facts. It's like, look, I get you're going to create a sad story for me of why I should let some illegal immigrants come in. Here's the reality, and I love what this guy said. He said they manufactured, in another interview, he said they're the ones who created the crisis. Why do we have a crisis at the border with families? Because families came over illegally. It would be like this. Imagine if I took my whole family and we committed an armed robbery at a jewelry store, and then I got us in a high-speed chase with the police. And then I'm like, well, you're going to split me up from my family? Are you kidding me? They're going to go, dude, you put your family in this position. You're the one who took your family to commit crime, and now you want to get mad at us because we're going to do our job? No, that's not how it works. Oh, you're going to separate my wife from me? You're going to give our kid to CPS? Like, how could you do that? That's so wrong. No, you're the one who put your family in this situation. Well, this is exactly what happened at the border. Right? These families are coming over here. They're trying to do the wrong thing, which, by the way, there are tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands. I don't know the list. Let's look it up really quick. Of people waiting to come into the country legally. How many people are waiting to get into America legally? Let's see how long the waiting list as of right now. As of recent, millions of individuals are awaiting legal entry. Approximately 4 million applications. 4 million applications. Okay, let's see. How long does it take to get accepted on average? We're looking at this live. The average time depends. Okay, so if it's a family-sponsored immigration, immediate relatives, 6 months to 2 years. If it's family preference, there are annual caps, which means America doesn't just let everybody in. There's caps per year for different categories. For some kids and spouses, it can take 1 to 2 years. For an unmarried adult, it can take 12 to 15 years. Wait a minute. Wait times, yeah. But they can be here for other reasons. There's work visas, there's all this kind of stuff. There's employment. Refugees and asylum seekers. It can take 6 months to several years, typically 1 to 2 years. Okay, so it's not even that bad. There's some cases that can take up to 20 years. That's with, incredible circumstances, but it seems like on average, it's going to take you up to 2 years to get into the country. So instead of waiting like millions of other people, which the U.S. is letting these people in, there's people who get their citizenship all the time, and they're doing the right thing. They're like, okay, well, until I get my citizenship, I'm going to get a work visa, or I'm going to get a whatever. You've got all these people coming in that are skipping the line. They're skipping the line. You tell me how that's loving. How is illegal immigrants being allowed into our country loving when it's hurting Americans and it's skipping the people trying to get in legally? We can't even deal with these legal immigrants because we've got the illegal immigrants. As a Christian, this should be a no-brainer. Look, lock our country down. Especially, we did this in 2017. We had credible threats from the Middle East. And so there was a freeze on anyone from the Middle East coming in. And you see these videos at the border. We are talking about military-aged male at large that are crossing the border. What you tell me what, 18 to 35-year-old men from the Middle East want to come do in our country. You know that Osama bin Laden told Peter Bergen when he got that interview back in, I think it was 2000, or it was in 1997. And he said, one day everyone will know what I'm going to do. You'll see it on the television. One day you're going to see. Well, who does that remind you of? Osama bin Laden said, one day you're going to see. Well, everyone did see, unfortunately. Does that remind you of anybody?
If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're going to know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entire
One day you're going to know who I am. Do we really want another 9/11? And so many people are asking the question, why is this happening? I think that's a fair question. Like, why would Biden allow all these illegals in? Well, I think the answer, it should be pretty clear. When you create a nation of chaos, who gets to come in and be the savior? When you create a nation of chaos, now all of a sudden you've got the government coming in and they're the ones who are going to save you. But I think it's even worse than that because we didn't actually see a lot of saving, did we? We just saw complete chaos. You don't even need to look at the illegal situation. Look at what's happening in California. Look at what Gavin Newsom has done to that state. And it's sad because I know that there are some wonderful Christian people in California. There are some amazing ministries in California. And you can't look at a state like California or Oregon or Washington. Look at what's happening in Seattle. Look what's happening in Portland, San Francisco. You can't look at these cities and go, oh, yeah, this wasn't on purpose. Oh, it was intentional. It was intentional. And so you go, why would they want their cities to be worse and worse and worse and worse? And I'm telling you, there's more going on than meets the eye. There's more going on than you might be aware of. And, some people thought it was so that the left could get the votes. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Biden tried to let all these illegals in so that they could vote? That's one theory. That would explain why they, even in California, they made it. You tell me how crazy this is. In California, they made it illegal to even ask a voter for their identification. It is illegal to ask someone who was voting to show ID. You can't even ask. Why would that be? That makes zero sense. If you want to buy a beer, you have to show an ID. If you're a kid and you try to get into an R-rated movie, you got to show an ID. You want to do anything, you've got to show some ID, right? But you want to vote for the next president and the leaders of the United States, they can't ask you for an ID. That is why I appreciate Trump. And right now he's trying to push for the next election to be, you have to have your ID, and they want to do paper ballots. I think that's a wonderful idea. And when you do things like that, that's what's called transparent. That's what's called integrity, right? Like, that the people who voted all showed their ID, so you know that they're citizens of this great country. Even in a church, there's certain meetings you can't go to because they're only for members. I remember when our pastor fell years and years and years ago at the mega church that I went to, the meeting that they called was only for members, right? Or you think of in our HOA where we live, you can't just show up and vote on something. You have to be a member, which takes identification. There's a process, but it's like to vote for the president. It's a good theory. Let's wipe out voter ID. That way we don't know who's voting. Let's do mail-in ballots because those are easily manipulated. And let's flood in millions of illegals. And hopefully they'll be like that Haitian guy that we saw that said, hey, Biden forever. I hate Trump. He's the one getting me out of here. I want Biden. I want Obama. Well, it didn't work because the majority of America wants law and order. The majority of America wants transparency. The majority of America wants integrity. That's what I love about Promise Keepers. We are the men of integrity. Like, we will conduct ourselves in a way that is honorable. And as a nation, we should do the same thing. Now, before we kind of wrap up here, I wanted to go through a little bit of, maybe I can go through a little bit of this. I was just going to look through some news articles that came up. This was just 3 days ago in Los Angeles. 26, I love that they say non-citizens, when in fact, and I love that Governor Ron DeSantis corrected a reporter who said non-documented citizens, and he said no. The correct term is illegal alien. So 26 illegal aliens were arrested with pending charges or convictions for murder, homicide, which the difference in murder and homicide is the killing of another human being. So if it doesn't amount to one of the levels of murder, it's still homicide. Or assault against children. These are the people that are in our country. Oh, here we go. 5 hours ago, ICE arrested 308 illegal migrants, including attempted murderer and a child molester. ICE raids begin in a Texas development known for attracting illegal aliens. Houston, 12-year-old's killing becomes focus of immigration debate as 2 illegal aliens are charged with capital murder. Look at this. This was 11 hours ago. Look at that. I'm not even going to read that because this video will get flagged. You read it. That's just some of the criminals being hauled from their homes and booted out of America. Guys, these are people who are in our country. And I like what JD Vance said. He said, look, I want them out. I want them all out. Let's take care of America first. And you know what? Let's also take care of the immigrants who are trying to come here legally. And then this poor girl, Laken Riley, murdered by an illegal. Good, they don't have a picture of him. He doesn't need to be famous. I mean, guys, there's so many articles. These are all different articles. 3 sentenced in the violent murder of Houston woman lured from her job and her body was dumped in Colony Ridge. Let's find out. Were these people here legally? Gang related. Nice. At least some law and order is happening. 30 years for one, 50 years for the other 2. Of the 3, at least one is considered an illegal immigrant. The other one has a hold for immigration and custom for ICE. And the immigration status for the other one is unknown. I mean, guys, we could do this all night. Like, this is happening. These are American people who are being hurt. And so as a Christian, when you see that happening, you go, hey, wait a minute. We've got to protect our own. I walked you through those statistics. That was on the Customs and Border Patrol official website. That's just numbers. Numbers don't swing left or right. Numbers don't have bias. Numbers don't, they don't stereotype. Numbers don't prejudice. Numbers are just numbers. And when you see the numbers coming down at the end of Trump's first term and skyrocket from 2021 to 2024, that is America last. That is America not being taken care of. But thank God we have someone in. And let me just say this as we wrap up. When people say the church and politics shouldn't mix, well, I've done so many videos on that, and you know why that's stupid. But I want you even just to think about this conversation tonight. When the church stepped up and we elected a president who was closer to Christian values than the other candidate, that's why it matters. Because these are American lives that are being protected. Those numbers are going to drop. They're going to be, I can't wait to see. 2024, what were we? We were at 10,000 illegal crossings arrests made. We know that that's not even a good number because there were millions of people. I can't even remember the number, but it's over 5 million illegal immigrants have come in. And so that number is going to drop drastically. The number of homicides is going to drop drastically. The number of domestic violence, you care about women, you're going to let these illegals come in. They're targeting women. They're taking advantage of women. I can't wait to see those numbers drop because that's what I voted for. And when the church gets involved and we elect someone who is not about lawlessness and open borders and killing babies and just all these other crazy things, it matters. The American people are protected when we vote closest to the Bible that we possibly can. There is no perfect candidate. Jesus is never going to be on the ballot. It's always going to be human beings. And so we have to do our best. But in this election, it was very clear there's someone who wanted to protect the American people and someone who wanted to push outrageous policy. Praise God that we elected the right person. Promises made, promises kept. Don't let anyone bully you out of, saying you shouldn't be involved in politics. This is politics. The southern border is a political issue. And all of those numbers you read, there's a story behind that. Can I just tell you, we read about 1,200 domestic violence and assaults and batteries. That's 1,200 people. I went to calls like that as a cop. Like, you might just see a number and go, wow, 1,200. I think about 1,200 different visits to different houses, talking to different women, to different men who were being beaten, who were being shot, who were being strangled. I've interviewed women that were choked out by their boyfriend. I've interviewed guys who were shot by their roommate. I've interviewed guys that were stabbed by their ex-best friend. That 1,200, that represents those stories, and that's just in 1 year, and it's by people who shouldn't even be in this country. And that's politics, right? If we have the ability to affect that, we should. And so that's why I don't buy into any of this stuff when people say you shouldn't get involved, you shouldn't talk about it, it's a political issue. No, we're talking about human lives. We're talking about the safety of our country. We need to be America first. And let me finish by saying this. If we want to see America become strong, then we have to build up the American family. And if you want to build up the American family, then you build up the American man, because men are supposed to be the spiritual leaders of the home. Men are supposed to be the priest, provider, and protector of the home. And that's what we're doing at Promise Keepers. We are raising up men across America who will lead in this generation and lead in the ways of God. So, man, I pray that you will continue to follow the Lord Jesus Christ, that you will be brave in your walk with the Lord, and that you will say what needs to be said when it needs to be said. I believe one of the bravest things you can do in our generation is when your time comes to say something that's true and it might be uncomfortable, you say it anyways. That's one of the bravest things you could do. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you bright and early for another day of Bible in a year. And then tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be doing the live recap of week 4 for for Bible in a Year. So, got a couple chances to catch you tomorrow. We'll see you then.